Hello, and welcome back to the WABAN podcast. I am your host, Nim, and I am joined here by character actress Margot Martindale.
I got nothing. She just immediately turned to a life of crime again after she got out of jail.
Yeah, you just got to say something like, I have a thirst for blood or something. I don't know.
Well, like her entire character is like that she's a character actress that gets really into the characters, but she's been stuck on that one character like since the beginning of the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's only been in like a few episodes, so.
Well, yeah, but all of those episodes, she's like a criminal.
Yeah, no.
Acting.
I still think it's hilarious that that's like a real person too. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's the real person voicing it too, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I love it. All right, so anyways, we are, in case you didn't figure it out, we are talking about season 2 of Bojack Horseman. So, 2 weeks ago we talked about season 1 and season 2. Now, before we get started, I was actually curious of your just kind of thoughts. Would you say that season 2 is better than season 1, like me?
I would say so, yeah.
You would say so? Okay, yeah. Okay. Would you say significantly better or like a little? Like, what's the overall thought process on it?
It's probably about the same as like the last few episodes of season 1. So,
right.
Like, a good bit better, not like, you know,
that's good. That's
a huge jump, but yeah.
So you're enjoying it pretty well at this point, I would say, right?
Mixed feelings about it, I have to say.
Yeah. I can see that. Mm-hmm. Where do you think the mixed feelings come from? Like, well,
there's a lot of aspects about it that I very much enjoy, and there's even more that are, I think are well done at least. But right. It's all laden with that like very heavy, like emotional turmoil kind of stuff. It's like, I'm not quite comfortable talking about all this.
Oh yeah. It definitely gets more intense in this season than the last as well when it comes to that kind of stuff. Yeah, because I think the last season just kind of scratches the surface with a lot of that emotional stuff.
Yeah.
And like the depression and all this, stuff going on. But this one gets into it more for sure. All right. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump right in and start going episode by episode. So the first episode of the season is titled Brand New Couch.
which is only really relevant at the very beginning. And then they don't really mention it, right?
Well, the new couch is really only relevant to Todd. Like, so Bojack gets a new couch because he has a new outlook on life, and he's like, I want to, he gets it new or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of moves on from it. He's like, yep, got a new couch. To Todd, that's like the biggest thing in the world because, that's where he slept. And so he's sleeping throughout the episode. He's like sleeping in Bojack's car because he doesn't want to sleep on the new couch. And that's like the whole thing.
And then I do remember the scene where he's just like panically talking to Bojack and be like, okay, blah, 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 blah. Great, I'm going to go sleep on your couch. Happy ending for me.
And he's like, wait, he thought he was talking to him the whole time, but he's actually just talking to himself.
Yeah.
Trying to talk himself up to like go sleep on the couch, yeah. But yeah, no, the main sort of story of this is, so Bojack is starting filming on Secretariat, and Bojack has a whole new outlook on life. He's trying to be more positive. He's listening to these like self-help tapes, right, to help like be more positive and friendly and just look at life better.
Isn't it like the oh my guy, right, that's voicing them? At least it very much sounded like it.
Maybe? I don't know.
Wasn't he on Power Rangers or something?
I really don't know. I
only remember the voice, I have to be honest.
I don't know. I watched a little bit of Power Rangers when I was a kid, but I barely remember it because it was so long ago.
Power Rangers.
Like, I watched it and I liked it, but like I don't know why I liked it. But it's I don't remember it much because it's been so long. But so I don't know. Maybe. But no, it's so yeah. So he, he's trying to like go for a run and stuff. He's doing all this stuff. And that's sort of the main thing, but it's like interesting because his positive outlook on life is harming his acting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, which is interesting because he's supposed to say a line that's like he's supposed to be really sad during the scene. He just found out his brother died or something in the movie, or I think that's what it was. And so he's sad about it. Whatever. Either way.
Yeah, something like that.
And he's supposed to say the line, "What are you doing here?" But he's supposed to say it as if he's like sad and like But he can't. Every time he says it, he's like, "What are you doing here?" Which. That's one of my favorite lines to quote. Whenever I say like "What are you doing here?" to somebody, like I want to say it like that, just because of this show. Like I just think it's a fun line to quote.
Yeah, he says it like in his old show. The what's the genre?
Oh, like the
comedy or comedy,
yeah. You like horsing around?
Yeah.
The sitcom.
I was trying to think of the name of the genre that is like the drama and comedy kind of thing. And, not the seriousness of the movie should be.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what you're trying to get at. So it's
just because like it's like he's used to acting in those like little silly things instead of the serious ones.
Yeah, he's used to acting in like horsing around sitcom type of thing.
Yeah, sitcom, that's it.
Right, which is completely different than, this serious role. Yeah. It's actually interesting. I like that like he mentions during part of it, he's like he goes to the director whom I can't remember the name of at the moment. Oh man, like I know the character's name. It's I hate when like I know all these characters' names because like I've seen it before and like I can usually know it, but I forget when I'm talking about it on here. It's like.
Do you mean the one that keeps calling Todd cute? Or
yes. Yeah, he's like, maybe you made a mistake in casting me, and she's like, I don't make mistakes. Yeah. And so she knew he had it in him, kind of based on because you saw at the end of last season his audition, he had that powerful audition, which was mostly because of his how he was feeling. So he sort of pulled on his own life's feelings and stuff to.
He was already feeling the emotion, so acting it didn't take much from him.
Yeah, and then the ending of this episode hits pretty hard as well because the end, I don't know if you remember exactly how the end goes down.
Not quite.
But basically, so you see like a flashback at some point in the episode from like his mother saw one of the horsing around shows and she was like making fun of she was like, oh well, it's not that great, but what like basically putting him down for it or whatever. And they had that conversation where he's like constantly trying to like, could somebody please get alcohol in my mouth right now? And then at the end he gets a call from his mother
and where she just goes off on him about how he was born broken.
Yeah,
that heavy stuff.
Yeah. And it's like a big downer moment. And then only then, and that brings him back into his sad state that he's been in before, like out of his, new happy attitude, because he hears that from his mother. And then that's when he's able to deliver the line properly. Which
that is a really like heavy moment though.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be happy is basically what she's saying, which is terrible.
Right. Which I think where she's going with it is like, oh, because like of who your parents are,
Yeah.
you're just bound to be like sad and terrible, like,
Mhm.
you know, whatever.
Because they were too.
Yeah. She's not a great mother. That's for sure. But
I mean, they drive that home pretty quickly and pretty hard.
yeah. Well, yeah, because you occasionally get flashbacks. Oh, that's another one I wanted to bring up is the opening of the season. The very first scene that opened the season is so you know how in the last episode of season 1 they showed that scene of where Secretariat was on a TV show and he was like he got a letter
Reading
from
the
Bojack,
letter. Yeah,
and then he killed himself. They play that again, but from Bojack's perspective, where Bojack is watching it on TV as a kid. So Bojack's a little kid, and then it's his parents like fighting in the background, and you just hear like it's like this intense thing, and it's which is really, I think, is really interesting because it's like you're taking something that we already saw and then just like recontextualizing it to like
to another character's perspective and giving
and a lot of people looked at it as like Bojack as a kid was like hyper focused on watching this moment on the TV screen because he was trying to like get away from like hearing his parents, and so he heard Secretariat giving him that advice of like always move forward, never look behind you, no matter what happens, never look behind you or whatever. And that's sort of like something Bojack's always taken from then, where he's like he tries to, if he makes mistakes in the past, he tries to just never look back, just move on, just move forward. It's in the past, try to forget about it. Which is probably a large part of where his alcoholism comes from, right? That's a way to help him forget about bad things that he's done in the past, So it's really interesting when you kind of start piecing some of this together. It's like why he is the way he is,
Yeah. There's also the one flashback. It might have been a different episode, but
yeah, it probably was.
Where his mother catches him smoking one of her cigarettes, and she makes him finish it.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, he's asking, like, are you punishing me for stealing or for smoking or what? Like,
and she's like, I'm punishing you for being born or something like that. Or
yeah.
Well, and then she says, like, I used to be beautiful before I had you. This was another flashback, I think, too. And he's like, yes, I know. And she's like, you ruined me. You ruined me. And he's like, yes, I know, mother. And like, the fact that he just kind of just sits there and goes, yes, I know, like that just shows how and you start to piece together and you're like, yeah, you kind of see why Bojack has become like a shitty person. But it's like he's not like just a shitty person though. Like he's like he does shitty things, but I don't know. It's he's a complex character. Let's just put it that way.
Definitely.
And you definitely get to see more of the complexities of his character as it goes on, even further and further into the show as well. But yeah, so that anyways, the end of the episode immediately pulls him out of his positive new attitude, which kind of shows that like his positive new attitude he didn't really change to be a new person. It was more him just putting that on to hide the sadness that was really still underneath, kind of.
Or at least making like a surface level effort to change it.
Right. Yeah. It was more of a mask than anything else.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, we can move on to the next one if you are ready to. All right, so next one is Yesterdayland. So
this is the Disneyland knockoff, right?
This is the Disneyland one, and it's also the one where Bojack meets, what's her name, Wanda? I think that's her name. The owl that he dates.
Right.
Yeah.
That was in a coma for 30 years.
Yes. So it starts this episode is starting their relationship, and then it's also the whole Todd Disneyland shenanigans, which I still love the joke that like Disneyland, the real Disneyland, was like accidentally copyrighted wrong.
Yeah, like 2 eyes.
he's like, oh yeah, because Walt Disney definitely spelled his own name wrong. Oh wait.
Oh, wait.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
I love how he's like, look, can we go to Disneyland? And Bojack's just like, Disneyland doesn't exist, and Todd like totally believes him for like
Yeah.
5 years or whatever.
And then he tries to tell Todd that he was lying. It's like, yeah, Disneyland does exist. I built it. Like, no, the real Disneyland.
Yep. But yeah, no, I think as far as the overall story goes, the main takeaway from this episode is Bojack starting his relationship with I want to say her name is Wanda. Yes, that sounds right. Why do I not remember these names? Like,
Bojack
I don't know.
Horseman.
Owl.
Wanda Pierce. Yeah.
Wanda. Yep. So it's interesting because like to see sort of how they like connect as a couple. So like I think the thing is Wanda really helps Bojack to see things in a positive light. And I think that's part of what like draws him to her, because like she's very positive, always looking on the bright side, always looking in the best in people and stuff. She's like she's just a positive person, you know.
I think part of what you're getting at is when they first met.
Yeah.
When she was in a coma for 30 years, so she doesn't know who he is at all. And so, it's like a blank slate who doesn't know how, horrible a person he is yet.
Yeah, it's this whole idea of like once people get to know him a little bit and they like him, but then when they get to know him too much, they, that's sort of the whole theme that goes on here. But it's and then but like there's little things you notice like she's always looking at the positive side, whereas he's looking at the negative side. So like they get their fries and like there's a curly fry in with the regular fries accidentally. Yeah. And he's complaining about it. He's like, oh, come on, who messed this up? But then she's like, I always liked it. It's like a nice little bonus. It's like a crossover episode. I always like getting an extra curly fry in there. And it and like that seems like just a fun little moment, but like it's also kind of like a good summarization of like their different outlooks on life, where Bojack's like always cynical and she's always more optimistic,
pessimist and optimist.
So she's like I want to say a smarter version of Mr. Peanut Butter, constantly optimistic, but she's actually has more intelligence.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, no, which is, so I think that's part of like what draws him to her is like, she actually is making him feel good and stuff. Like, I love the scene where he's like, they had sex the one night and he's just like, wait, but I already had sex with you. I suddenly have this strange, and I still want you to be here. What?
And she's just kind of like, okay, I can still be here.
He's just like, I want to do fully clothed things with you. What? Let's go to the park? What?
Sure.
Let's, he's like confused.
He just doesn't know how to respond to it.
Yeah, because he's been in that mindset of like the whole, humper and dumper kind of mindset for the past however many years,
Oh, I've never heard that phrase before, and I hope to never hear it again.
Yeah, it's terrible, but I mean that's what it is, though, right? Like that's the only person he's had sex with in the past however many years that he's consistently still had in his life is Princess Carolyn.
Did they ever go into that? Like, I don't know. Oh no, I guess they broke up like right at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, they did. They did. So they like mentioned that like they had But yeah. Anyway, so that starts their relationship. We can move on to the next episode if you'd like.
Yeah.
So next episode is titled "Still Broken," which is the Herb Kazazz funeral.
Right.
So I just first off want to point out how, like, okay, so last we saw, Herb Kazazz had cancer, right?
Mm.
And he was like, yeah, I'm probably going to die. Like, but they go out of their way to mention at the funeral that he was actually getting better from cancer, only to then die because he crashed into a truck. Didn't die from crashing into the truck, but it turned out it had peanuts in it. He was allergic to peanuts, and he died from the peanut allergy. Which is kind of it's like kind of a funny thing, but it's also kind of sad because it's like,
I remember them reading off the tweets, like, saying that he's invincible and, cancer couldn't beat him. Hashtag texting while driving. Oh no, there's a truck. I survived the crash. It's fine. Oh
it's
no,
like,
there's peanuts in the truck.
Hopefully it's not full of peanuts. Oh no, it was full of peanuts. Yeah.
I don't know. Overlooking the comedic aspect of it, that thrill high that he has because he survived cancer immediately gets run into the ground.
Yeah.
Which is, kind of depressing.
It's kind of depressing, but it's also like, it almost shows like it almost makes things like death seem like life and death seem meaningless in a way. Like, oh yeah, you might spend all this time trying to fight cancer, finally beat it, but you might just die right after anyways. Like, whatever, It's just kind of this. It's kind of just like, you're just like, oh, like,
I mean, harsh but true.
Yeah. Because they could have easily just been like, yeah, he died of cancer. Because as far as we knew, as the audience, he was already going to die anyways. Like, last time we saw him, we thought he was going to die from cancer. So you could have just been like, they didn't have to do that, but they did, just to kind of add to the cruelty of it, Like,
yeah, it also plays a part in like the overall story of that, right? Because there's this whole thing about how, they thought someone had him killed to get his like manuscript for a book. But it turns out that he didn't have him killed. He just, read the manuscript and took it so that would never be published because it was terrible.
Oh yeah. It was Henry Winkler, and I'm pretty sure did they get the voice of the real Henry Winkler? I think it was. It sounded kind of like it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's an actor. He's been, an actor for like tons of years, The first thing he was ever big in was like a show from the 70s. He was in Happy Days, but and then he was a big actor ever since then.
And they keep mentioning that he was in one episode of one of those cop shows. I forget
of Law and Order.
Yeah,
even though I don't think that's like the most famous role he ever had. Anyway, I'm pretty sure as far as I know, the most famous role he ever had was like from Happy Days in the 70s, when he was like younger, much younger, obviously. But
yes, they got the real guy to voice him.
Yeah, I thought so. It sounded like Henry Winkler. Yeah, I thought so. But yeah, so it's also like, I guess one of the main takeaways from this episode is sort of seeing Bojack reunite with the rest of the cast from horsing around, and just kind of seeing like, because like
how they all changed.
Yeah, and how like you've already met Sarah Lynn, but like the other ones too, it's just interesting to see, because like at the time, Herb was telling them like, oh, you guys are family, you got to stick together, and like, but they all kind of
did not happen. Yeah,
right. Like once the show ended, they all left and had their own lives.
One of them turned British for some reason.
Maybe she was always British, but just put on an American accent for the show. Maybe.
I remember the end of one of the flashbacks. Bojack was like, so were you American or British in that flashback?
Yep. Yeah, I still don't know what's going on. I'm pretty sure that's the only time that character ever shows up in the show at all, too. So
we never find out.
Yeah, it's just a thing.
Wow.
Because the boy shows up later on in the show at one point, but I'm not going to say why, but he does. And so does Sarah Lynn.
Okay.
But, yeah, trying to think like what else happened in this episode. Oh, also he saw Charlotte at the funeral too.
Right.
And that's how he found out she lived in New Mexico and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she was like, here's where you can find me, you know, gave him like a business card for their business. And he's like, if you're ever in New Mexico, stop by. And that's, you know, obviously becomes important later on, but we'll get to that.
Important.
We'll get to that. That's the big episode 11, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So what else? Oh yeah. This is also, when Todd suddenly gains this new personality and becomes Toad for a little bit.
Right. In the weird...
Because some random...
janitor in a... What was it? A coolizer machine or whatever. The transformation machine.
He's like, you know what this is? Oh, it's a transformation machine. No, it's not. What?
It's a prop.
No, it's just a prop. What do you... I'm Toad.
Do you actually know if that was an actual thing in Steve Urkel's show?
I don't know. I never... What's the show he's in? It's like Family Matters, isn't it? Isn't that the name of the show that he was in? That character was in? Something like that? I don't know. It's from like the 90s, was it? 80s? Something? I don't know. I never watched it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I am not sure.
Yeah, they're in Family Matters.
But, you know, okay, yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, no, that was a nice little, you know, side plot. Nice little Todd side plot. Todd shenanigan. Todd foolery.
He just goes and steals the guy's bike, and the guy's like, wow, I should be mad, but that guy's just so cool. Like, what?
The name's Toad. And then all it takes is Bojack like making fun of him for him to automatically go back.
Why you got your sleeves rolled up? You look weird. Oh, I just thought it would look cool.
I just thought I'd do something new.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to move on to the next episode?
Yes.
All right. So the next one is...
There's a few things that I want to talk about. I don't remember what episodes they were in.
Well, yeah, we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
Next is After the Party. So this episode, basically, it's Diane's birthday. Mr. Peanut Butter did a bunch of stuff with her. Then he had a surprise party for her. They get in a fight, and then it shows like three different scenarios that happened after the party ended.
Yeah.
Princess
Caroline and Todd, Bojack Horseman and Wendy, and then the
Wanda.
Oh yeah, Wanda,
not Wendy. And then it goes to Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane at the end.
Yeah.
So the first one was the Princess Caroline and Todd one, which that one's just kind of there. That one's not that important. It's like it's Princess Caroline breaking up with Vincent Adult Man.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's struggling to be both Vincent Adult Man and
of course,
what was the kid's name?
I don't remember at the moment. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's probably a good thing that they ended that now because like it's a funny joke, but you don't want to bring it up. You know, you don't want to stretch the joke out too long.
Yeah.
Because like you're never going to take them seriously as a couple in the show. There's no way you could ever take them seriously. So if you want to take her to more serious relationships later on in the show, you have to end that, you know? It's like, so it's probably a good thing they did
also,
this early on.
Like the natural progression of a joke is, you know, it escalates, it gets more serious and, you know, more emphasized.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that in that particular joke.
Yeah,
you're eventually gonna hit a wall that you're not.
Yeah, exactly. They ended the joke before it went too far, which is so it's good. I think it's good they did that. And then there's the whole Todd thing with Todd's phone and talking to his phone, who wants to know about love and is in love with Princess Caroline's phone, and he has to make the phones kiss.
Nothing to do with anything.
It's just there.
And it just stops like just before Princess Caroline gets back to the car, and it's like,
and you're just like, well, that happened. Okay. So next they had the Bojack and Wanda story
Right.
after the party. So they leave, and they're driving and they're talking, and they sort of have a conversation about like Bojack being worried if they're taking things too fast because they moved in together and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know like a lot to say about their story. Like she has her whole like joke thing, which I thought was kind of like clever.
Yeah.
Where it's like she tells a joke that doesn't seem to have a punchline, and then she tells another one later on that connects to the previous one. It's like,
And he's sort of like, oh, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Even though he was like very mad that it wasn't a joke, it was just a story.
Yeah. And then, Bojack's very, very critical of comedy. So,
yeah.
As a comedian himself. And then they hit a deer.
Right.
Poor guy.
In camo in the middle of the road.
I mean, they were just, obviously, deer in real life are like, just kind of jump in the middle of the road in front of cars. So, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's Bojack Horseman. So it's like a deer that's like that walks around like a dude, like a normal person,
Yeah. And for some reason, he's wearing camo in the dark, in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the street.
Yep. But they have to help him. But yeah, so this one is more or less like just kind of them building their relationship a little bit. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's unless you do.
It was just kind of like the first wobble on like the rickety bridge that their relationship will become.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, and then comes which I would say is the biggest part of this episode is the Diane Mr. Peanut Butter part.
Yeah.
Because that's one where it's an actual like full on fight that they have. Because
I just realized all these about relationships.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because Princess Carolyn and Vincent Adult Man, Todd dealing with the two phones being in a relationship, Bojack and Wanda's relationship, and then at the end it's Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's mad at him because he gave her a party and she doesn't like parties, and he should know that.
And that he's just been doing a ton of stuff for himself.
That
he goes through and like, each room has a theme, and they're all themed like about like things that she likes.
Yeah. Well, because he's like, they're in the ball. She's like, why do you think I would like a ball pit? She's like, well, you told me that when you were a little girl, you always wanted to have a ballroom. She's like, that's
the same thing.
That's not what a ball pit. That's not what a ballroom is.
But he's like, once again, golden retriever, man. He's like, his heart's in the right place. He doesn't understand, but his heart's in the right place.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I think the big kicker at the end of the episode is they have the whole fight about her leaving to go to Cordovia thing.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, for Mr. Peanut Butter, it's always slightly been about that. He's always been he's kind of trying to hint that like he doesn't want her to go the whole time, but then she finally is like, oh, that's what this is all about. And it's which I can see why, your wife leaving you for 6 months to go to a really dangerous place. Yeah, I can see why you'd be a little...
Yeah, that is perfectly reasonable.
But at the same time, you also kind of see like that it's something Diane is really passionate about. So you also kind of have to be like, okay,
supportive. You need to be supportive.
But it's interesting. So yeah, I don't know what to say about it other than like this is probably one of the first times you see sort of a negative side to their relationship, I think.
At least as full-blown as that one was. There might have been nitpicks, but that's it.
Because so far, like, you see them and you're like, oh, yeah, they're good together or whatever. Like, they're very different personalities, but, like, that's sort of why they go well together. It's sort of like they balance each other out kind of well and whatever. So, yeah, and you know, and this show always likes to kind of take things and, like, put things in a more realistic way of, like, you know, yeah, real relationships aren't perfect. You know, people fight and they have issues and stuff. So they want to kind of deal with that. But yeah, there's definitely, you know, as the show goes on, you explore their relationship even more and see some more of the difficulties of it and stuff. But this is sort of one of the first big moments of that in the show. I don't have a lot to say about the episode other than that, because I mean that's what it is. That's what the episode is.
Yeah,
you know?
It's a build up to their relationship and then just something else later on.
Yeah. So next
I do want to mention they, like, go so heavy on his, like, dog persona.
Yes.
Because, like, isn't this the episode where he says that whenever she's not home, he sits on the couch and waits for her to get home?
Yeah, that part was adorable.
Yeah,
but also
it's
sad.
Kind of sad. Yeah,
it was, like, sad, and then because he says that, and then, like, because she's saying she's going to go away for 6 months, and it's like it's just kind of sad. Like, you are a good boy,
like your license plate says.
Yeah. I feel like you would relate with him. You know, he's a good boy. You're the goodest boy. You know, just works out. The next episode, oh my gosh, is chickens.
Right. This one I remember.
This is so weird because chickens raise chickens to be slaughtered and eaten.
And that's the good one, apparently.
It's so, like, it's weird because it's like this world is like it's anthropomorphic animals and stuff, and you're like, wait a minute. So does that make it weird to, like, eat meat, you know?
Or, like, drink milk or anything, animal products.
And it's, like, interesting. And then this episode actually addresses that and actually shows how weird that is. Because it's...
and it doesn't, like, relieve any of the weirdness of it. It just stacks on top of it. Like, oh no, you're right. It is really weird, and we have doubled down on it.
Yeah, that's just how this world works, you know? Like, there's no... Yeah. But I do love all the chicken jokes where it's like, yeah, her name is Becca, because she's like, who's your favorite composer? Bach?
And he gets mad about it, like, not this guy. You're insane.
And that's the introduction of the police officer, Meow Meow Fuzzy Face, or whatever his name is, Fluffy Face. Meow Meow Fuzzy Face.
He's a loose cannon.
He's a loose cannon. Oh, yeah. They have to do this whole thing to figure out if he's a loose cannon or not.
Yes. I love that scene so much.
Because it's playing off the whole, like, cop, like, cliches of, like, cop shows and cop movies and stuff. Like, and he's like, and then they're leaving, and she's like, let's get a team together. I'm gonna need a rookie.
What it was like
a man pulled from retirement. Something.
Yeah,
with nothing.
There was one about retirement. One about a rookie with like a by the books rookie. I think it was.
Yeah, by the books rookie, and it's like the cliche like cop show team, you know, or like it's like the. Yeah, no, I like that a lot.
I do really love how when she called him a loose cannon, he was like really distressed about it. Like, wait, I mean, I'm definitely a cannon, but a loose one?
No, he's a loose cannon. The guy just like crashes, smashes. What's his name's loose cannon? He's smashing his chair in the background. But yeah, no, I don't really know what to say about this episode because, like, I feel like there's not a lot.
There really is
of important stuff. Like, there's like Bojack is trying to bond with the director.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey Jennings, is that her name? Yes. Wait.
Hold on, I'll look it up. Bojack Horseman. Director, character. I should specify that.
Director, female director.
Kelsey Jennings. Yes.
Yeah, Kelsey Jennings. Yeah, there we go. I got it. Yeah, and then like Diane has to hang out with her daughter and stuff. There's like that whole thing, but yeah.
And there's this whole like battle between like these two chicken companies, or one's like factory chickens,
and the one they're all
treated well.
The one they're treated well on a farm and stuff, even though they're both like, it's like he's like explaining in the commercial the difference between a French chicken and a food chicken, and it's so messed up.
Arbitrary.
It's just these ones we feed with hormones that make them animals and not able to think like regular humans, like regular like people. You're just like,
so you just decided that this one is gonna die to be eaten arbitrarily.
And I love how like his like wife or whatever just comes and she's like, I don't want to take me with you. I don't want to kill chickens anymore. I want to
make video games and teach children math.
I want to make video games that teach children math. Poor woman.
That's probably a reference to something.
I don't know.
Wait. I mean, there's always been like those like little like children's toys where it's like the chicken and then, you know, like the clock turning thing and a bunch of numbers on it. And it's really colorful, like every children's toy.
Maybe? I don't know. It could just be a random thing the writers came up with too. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this. That police officer character does show up at different points in the show as well. Other points. Meow meow fuzzy face.
Who happens to be a loose cannon.
Yep. Next we have Higher Love. So let's see. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm reading the description. Oh, okay. So this is the one where okay. Autoerotic asphyxiation.
Oh, right.
Oh, so that's why it's called Higher Love, because you were hiring yourself. Like hanging yourself.
That was a stretch.
Maybe. I don't know. But it's also the one where Bojack says I love you to Wanda, and he doesn't want her to think that he actually loves her.
And then he hears about that suffocating yourself from the other guy.
Corduroy Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson. But that he's co-starring?
Yes. Yeah.
But he uses that. He's like, yeah, if they love you, they won't want you to strangle yourself. Oh, I can use this to figure out if Wanda loves me or not. And then he just goes way too far with it.
The Funky Spider-Man, or what are some of the other names that he was like? It's wow.
I knew like that vein of thing exists. I never knew there was like this whole thing about it, and I don't know if like Bojack Horseman just made it up or not.
See, yeah, I don't know, because I actually didn't know what that was until I watched Bojack Horseman. Like this episode, this is where my knowledge of autoerotic asphyxiation comes from, is Bojack Horseman. So
I mean, this may be too much information, but I knew about it beforehand.
Just...
And this was oh, these people are actually risking death to this extent. Which,
yes.
no one in their right mind would do that, right?
Yeah, people actually do it. That's the thing. I actually feel kind of bad for Corduroy Jackson because, like, he dies in the end, and it's like... he was, like, it's an addiction he tried to get rid of, and, like, it was hard for him, and it's like he's trying to be better. He's trying to not do it anymore. He's trying to be a good person, He's a good Christian boy now. I love that part. He's just like, I love that part because he's like, they're talking about it. He's like, Bojack's like, yeah, can we, like, not talk about autoerotic asphyxiation anymore? It's kind of gross. So that he's just like, oh, I also recently became a Christian. Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? And then Bojack's like, do you... he goes right back to talking about autoerotic asphyxiation because he doesn't want to talk.
Oh, I found a bunch of the things that they call it.
Oh, jeez.
Strangle the dirty dangle. The blue face blast off.
Oh, yeah.
The strokey chokey. Two neck squeeze. One hand on the Adam's apple, one hand on the Adam's banana. This is terrible.
This is terrible. Yeah, and he has this whole, like, fancy box for, like, the whole kit. Like, I also love the joke. Where they're Wanda and him are talking about it while the thing is being built. She's like, "Can we talk about the elephant in the room?"
Oh, really?
Really?
I can't.
You know what? Like, there's literally an elephant in the room.
I do also.
He's never gonna forget that.
Because he's an elephant and they have good memories. I just got that part.
Oh, wait, yeah, you're right. I just thought about that too.
There's also... This isn't part of the joke or anything, but, like, I just happened to notice that he only has, like, probably, like, 5 lines in total in there, and I'm pretty sure they're all repeated in that span of, like, 30 seconds. Because, like, you can tell, like, they're the same sound bite, because there's no difference whatsoever.
Yep. I think this is also the episode where Mr. Peanut Butter gets, like, hired for the new show.
Yes. Because
it might be.
Both Jackson and Mr. Peanut Butter's former agents meet the same fate for the same reasons.
Yeah. And they also find out that the guy who wrote Catcher in the Rye, who everybody thought was dead, is alive. I still think it's hilarious that the title of the show is Hollywood Stars and Celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out. Like, it's just a overly long title for no reason.
Yeah, it's like the boardroom meeting version of the name. Like the one that you'd be like, yeah, we'll think of a way to shorten it later. This is the working title. And they just
but they never shorten it.
Title.
Yep, it's great. I don't know if I have a lot to say about the episode other than that. I don't know if there's a lot of important stuff for the plot in this one either, other than, well, I guess it sets up this Mr. Peanut Butter show.
Yeah.
And then it also sets up, like, the whole I love you thing with Bojack and Wanda.
Right.
But
has Diane already gone with the
Cordovia?
Yeah, Cordovia.
Maybe. It's within the next few episodes, so I'm not sure actually which episode it was. Some of the things, like, I forget what episodes it happens in. It's
Yeah,
like,
definitely. Because, like, the chicken one, she was with, that whole thing.
yeah.
So not
It might
yet.
be this one where she was leaving, or maybe the next one. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is one whole thing that, like, there's, like, a good chunk of one episode that recaps it, I think.
Yeah. We'll get to that. That's closer to the end. But yeah, next episode after that one, is Hank After Dark. Oh wait, no, yeah, Diane's still there because this is the one where she tries to go after Hank Hippopopoulos
Right.
for his allegations, which they never say what the allegations are, but it's pretty obvious that they're like sexual assault, or at least that's what they're supposed to be.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of. I mean, that's the type of This is.
I
I
mean,
feel like
if it's all allegations from his secretaries, then yeah, probably.
that's definitely the implication, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because, like, so they paint it out in a way where it's like most people don't care about like those allegations, which is interesting because this was like a few years before like the Me Too movement happened. So that at this time, like, this was before like a lot of this stuff was actually paid attention to.
Oh, right. Okay.
So in like at the time, maybe people didn't care as much or notice as much, So maybe it was kind of critiquing on like the real society.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, it's people actually pay attention to that more, and it's more publicized, more that kind of stuff. People come out with those more nowadays because of the whole. There was that, obviously the whole Me Too thing that happened.
Right.
So
this
that's
show
interesting.
does that a lot, doesn't it? Like even the chicken episode, which was totally off the wall, it still was like topical in the sense that, yeah, even in real life, there's like, you have like the ones that treat the animals bad and one that treat the animals good, but they both end up killing them.
Yeah.
So it's very odd.
Yeah, no, it definitely does a lot of like critiquing our culture kind of thing, especially a lot of like critiquing like famous culture, pop culture, Hollywood culture, things like that.
I mean, the whole show is about how Bojack is kind of broken partially from him being an actor.
Yeah. I don't remember what else. Oh yeah, this episode's also important for sort of the Diane Mr. Peanut Butter relationship, because it's like Mr. Peanut Butter doesn't want her to be attacking Hank because Hank has a show on the same channel that Mr. Peanut Butter shows on. Also, Hank Hippopopoulos was always one of Mr. Peanut Butter's like heroes, one of his favorite people, so it's interesting. Yeah, I think. Oh, this is also the episode where Todd gets like trades places with the king of something.
Yeah,
I don't remember what country they said it was, but it was like some other like.
Todd somehow starts a genocide
without even trying. He's just like, crap.
And they don't go into any details of what happened to Todd. They just suddenly trade places, and you see it on the news, and it's like,
well, you see things. You don't see where like what Todd's up to. You just hear about it, and then you see like the other guy, because the other guy's like hanging out with Mr. Peanut Butter the whole time, as pretending to be Todd.
It was, I don't know. I just remember seeing like them showing like a random or like a random like a little bit of, this one guy from another country being nearby on the news. Like, okay, what's that about? And then suddenly it's Todd in there
It
instead,
looks
dressed
like
up
you like,
at him.
but also it's like, oh, the guy looks kind of like Todd. Huh. Wait a
Mhm.
minute.
But I do love when you see the Todd version of him on the news. He's just like, yes, princely things is his quote.
Oh yeah, and it's like, yeah, it was like being a prince, hooray, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is like the type of thing Todd says, you know?
And you're just like, what? What is going on? And at the end, he just mentioned that he accidentally started a suicide by just like randomly agreeing to what this guy said.
Or a genocide.
Yeah, not suicide, genocide. Very different things.
Very different, right? They both involve death, but very different.
Yeah, just like homicide.
Yes. So if something ends with aside, it means death, I guess.
Herbicide, insecticide.
Yeah. There you go.
There's a lot of aside, isn't there?
I don't know what else to say about this episode.
Yeah. Neither do I. But I did forget something from an earlier episode that now's as good a time as any to bring up.
Sure.
That's kind of related.
Sure.
There was a similar kind of character introduction as this man, this prince from another country.
Mm-hmm.
There was I do believe it was, right? Yeah, it was in Yesterland.
Okay.
Was the name of the episode?
Yeah.
There was the 30 years
the
knocked out communist guy from.
Yes.
And I just want to mention the single line of where Bojack spies him and finds out he's a communist, and he goes, "Slap my salami, that guy's a commie."
Oh yeah, slap my salami, that guy's a commie.
He does it so serious too, and I like stopped, I like paused as soon as I heard that. I was just like, did I hear that right? And I had to go back and check, and yes, I did hear, "Slap my salami, that guy's a commie." And it's such a good line.
Yeah. It is a pretty good line. But yeah, anyways, next we have Let's Find Out, which is the first episode of Hollywood Stars and Celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out. I still love that they call it Hollywood, by the way. I just want to say that.
Stole the D, and then they never got it back, and no one mentions it anymore, but it's now Hollywood.
Yep. So yeah, the main thing in this episode is, so Diane has already left for Cordova. I think it was at the end of the last episode that she leaves, I believe.
Right, because there was this whole thing about them fighting and him saying, maybe it'll be good for us if you get away.
Yeah. But yeah, so Bojack's so Bojack's the first guest on the show, and it kind of goes with the whole shenanigans with that, and then the Todd shenanigans with him being backstage and trying to get the pen from CJ's is it CJ Salinger?
CJ Salinger. Oh.
What's his name? GJ Salinger? Wait. I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, all I can think of is DJ. But
the guy who wrote Catcher in the Rye. Oh. And others. And others. But yeah, so I think the big takeaway from this episode is sort of like there's one sort of big emotional moment in this episode. Like in middle of the show, there's that scene where they're like, he's like, "Oh, you want to get real? Let's get really real." And they like sits them down, and like Bojack and Mr. Peanut Butter have that like conversation live on television where he's like, "You kissed my wife," and then like he's like, "Oh," and then he like, this is like, that's actually a really good moment.
Yeah, Bojack has this little monologue of saying that he's jealous of Mr. Peanut Butter, but not because of Diane, but because Mr. Peanut Butter is happy.
Yeah.
Which is like,
well, yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, Bojack and Mr. Peanut Butter,
they're like polar opposites.
Have like parallel careers, right? They both had this famous sitcom in the 90s, and they both aren't doing a lot with their careers now. Well, now they are, because he has, Bojack has the movie and he has the show, but like, similar kind of things, right?
Yeah.
Yet, Mr.
Their
Peanut Butter's happy.
Personalities and outlook are polar opposites.
And it's interesting because it's sort of like, you kind of see like, so Bojack always seems to be always annoyed with Mr. Peanut Butter, and he seems like he doesn't like him and stuff, but like, so you kind of see like he does have like an appreciation for him.
Yeah.
He does have like a certain level of, which I think Mr. Peanut Butter is a good version of like a good sort of thing of like the whole, phrase like ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like, he's happy because he's just not that smart. Like,
he's just going through and, letting things work out for him as they will.
Yeah. But, that's a big moment. And I also like the moment where he's just like, like, he's like, wait, you knew that I kissed her? And he's like, of course I knew. She's my wife. She told me, like,
Mm-hmm.
It's in Bojack's just kind of like, oh yeah, right.
I do like, he's like, well, yeah, they got like roadside cameras on the highway, blah, blah, blah. Also, she's my wife and she told me.
Yeah.
Like just being very sarcastic about it, which I think is like the first time like Mr. Peanut Butter uses sarcasm or any kind of like cynical thing.
It's interesting because you realize like he is the, like always happy, always, whatever, optimistic guy, but like nobody is one personality all the time, right?
Yes.
Nobody is all one, right? Like Bojack does have moments in the show where he's a little happy, even though he's like sad most of the time. He does have, like, everybody is complex. You might be happy a lot of the time. You might be like very optimistic most of the time, but that doesn't mean you necessarily always are. Like everybody is, people are complex, they're more than just one emotion, one thing, And
a lot of times they contradict each other.
Yeah, exactly.
But whatever.
And I think that's one thing I like about the show is it does a good job of sort of getting into those complexities of like human nature, because again,
shows the duality of man.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, it does, because again, Mr. Peanut Butter for most of the show is seen as he's just that optimistic, ignorance is bliss kind of character, but
golden retriever personality.
He still has those moments of like, more than that,
Yeah, the darker moments, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I also love how it ends where Bojack is such a like he gives up the money that's going to go to charity just so he can like
rub it in Daniel Radcliffe's face.
Yeah, like it just shows just how petty Bojack is. So petty. Like it's yeah, it's like the money was going to go to charity, but
I mean, as soon as I saw him like, not immediately give an answer, I was definitely like, he's definitely going to purposely pick the wrong answer. There's no way Bojack Horseman would, do this and avoid being spiteful.
Yep. Instead, he says Elijah Wood, who is the actor who played Frodo.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the one who played Harry Potter, which is Daniel Radcliffe, of course.
Ooh. Frodo Harry Potter.
Frodo Harry Potter, yeah.
Yeah. What if they like switched, you know?
Yeah, it's like Frodo was in Harry Potter was in Lord of the Rings.
I'm just imagining Samwise Gamgee just like spell casting with his like weird accent. Just trying to say Leviosa or Leviosa or whatever it is.
Leviosa.
Oh.
Are you much of a Harry Potter fan?
Not really. My sister is, though.
I am. I think out of the movies, the third one is my favorite, but I've never read the books. But
never read the books. I think I tried to watch some of the movies at one point, but I don't know. I don't remember why I stopped, but I did stop at some point.
Yeah. I like them. I think they're pretty good. Anyways, I don't know if I have a lot more to say about the episode. I mean, I think we hit like the main sort of moment of the episode.
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, there was Todd's whole thing about getting the pen and then tricking the mouse or rat girl or whatever she was.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like all of the Todd stuff in all the episodes is like, it's okay if you don't talk about it because it's like, it doesn't actually, most of it doesn't actually add up to much. It's just kind of there just for fun, which is great. I love that.
It's a great relief from all of the heavy stuff that is everywhere else.
Yes, exactly. And I think a lot of it's legitimately funny too. So, you know.
At least some of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I get one or two good chuckles out of every episode, I think.
Yeah. I think the show's pretty funny. I like it. The next episode is The Shot, which I don't know if you can tell what the episode is based on that title or not.
The Shots.
Maybe not. Okay, I can explain. So The Shot is referring to the shots that they're trying to get for the movie.
Right, in the president's office.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, like, nope, nothing's coming to mind. I've failed you.
Yeah. Ever since I first watched this show, this episode made me so mad because I was like, especially at the end when Kelsey Jennings got fired from the movie, I was like, no.
Oh, right.
She's a good director. No.
I really love the bit where just anytime she saw Todd, she like grabbed his face. Oh, this guy's so cute. I could look at him all day. He's a very common face. Just no context, no reason for it. Just randomly throw that in there.
Yep. But no, I genuinely feel bad for the character because like...
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so there's like the moment they're in the like office shooting the scene and she goes to him and she's like, this is really good. And she's like, I think Turtletop's going to like it. And she's like, yeah, I'm really glad we're working on this together and stuff. And like, it's been really great working with you. And then at the end, she gets fired and like not seen again in the season. And it's like, and you're just like, ugh. I hate that. And she's replaced by like a director who sucks.
The catfish man.
Yes. As someone who wants to do filmmaking, that made me so mad. When I
was just like, yeah, that's good enough. You can fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. Yeah. He doesn't come in until the next episode. But yeah. So yeah. So that's sort of a hard-hitting moment. Also, Bojack cries in this episode.
Yeah. She tells him to cry for the shot.
And he won't.
Like, I can't cry in front of other people. It just doesn't happen. And then she, like, delivers this, like, whole emotional speech to him about how,
she goes,
how, like, Secretariat's, life is basically ruined at that point, and it, like, very much reflects Bojack's life at that point.
Yeah. And then she's just like, we got the shot. And he's like, I didn't cry. I didn't need you to. I just said that so that, like, whatever.
Mm.
But yeah, and then, like, he goes outside and he actually cries, because he's, like, thinking about, like, all that. And it's pretty hard hitting.
I think this was the episode where they showed his mother making him finish the cigarette.
I
Because
think
there was this
yeah.
weird parody between him now smoking that to calm down.
Oh yeah, is that where, like, at the beginning of the episode he, like, it showed that, and then it shows him take the cigarette and throw it down, and Todd's like, "Oh man, it's gonna start. You really shouldn't throw a lit cigarette." I'll call. Okay, I'll call 911.
Like it's like a weekly occurrence.
Oh my gosh.
Fine, it's my turn to call 911.
Yep. Also, I think it's funny. So they're creating this whole plan, right? And they're like, someone's probably gonna die. Probably Alan.
I can't die. I'm endangered.
I just came here to fix the TV.
You're in this now. You know too much.
Can we stop? Can you stop complaining about your imminent death? Come on. And of course they have Margot Martindale.
Mm-hmm.
And I love her, like, the only reason she pulls out a gun and starts shooting at the cops is because they're like, "Oh yeah, I love your work. Yeah, I've seen you in whatever." She's like, "Oh, I'm glad you love my work. Oh, what's your name?" And she's like, "What? This is for all." It's like, you know my work, but you don't know but you don't have the patience to watch the credits to find out what my name is.
Mm-hmm.
This is for all the character actors who never get the recognition they deserve.
And she just takes bullets too. Like, she gets, like, shot in the arm and stuff and just keeps going.
And everybody else is just kind of like, I'm going to go. They'll just leave and just leave her there.
Mm-hmm. And there's this whole thing with Princess Carolyn?
Yeah. With the painting.
Yeah, with the painting, and she has this little fantasy, and then she's like, "Oh, no, I don't want a peaceful life. I want to, work on stuff and be a workaholic."
Yep,
and
pretty much.
Just walks out.
Yep. Like, yeah, exactly. Everybody else just kind of ignores the bullets. Oh, yeah, and then Alan gets shot, and it's like, turns out he had something in his pocket that protected. It was his phone. No. It's like, oh,
Alan's
my phone's in my pocket. Oh, no, Alan's dead. Oh, no, it's just my phone. Oh, no, Alan's phone is dead.
No, it still works.
It's like, oh.
Getting a call.
And then he just leaves, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just... Alan's now my favorite character. Just... This is literally the only episode he's in the entire show, too. It's like, just...
My favorite character is Charlie. The frog who gets everything stuck to his hands.
Yep.
He's great.
Anyway, so we want to move on to the next one? Or...
Sure.
So next we have Yes and.
Right, Improv Cult.
So Improv Cult, also something with... Oh yeah, Bojack and Wanda break up in this episode as well.
Right.
I
forget most of the Bojack stuff.
So I think it's Diane comes home, but doesn't tell Mr. Peanut Butter, stays at Bojack's house.
Right.
Wanda doesn't like that. She's just staying here freeloading while, like, we're going to work, and then all of a sudden Bojack skips work a few times, and she's like, you should be going to work. You can't be doing, like, which ultimately leads to her leaving him. And she has
a whole moment of how he says his life was ruined by directors like her, or what was it?
By
network officials like her.
Yeah. Which is interesting. And then, like, she has a really interesting line that I always look at, and she's like, with rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags.
I've seen that on like memes and like on the internet. Never knew it was from the show.
I don't know if it comes from this show, but like that's the only time I've heard it. So
right.
I could be, maybe it doesn't. But I just think that's a cool like line. Like it's like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely
the whole,
a heavy line.
I mean, it's kind of the way it is, right? It's like when you're in love, you don't notice sort of the red flags, you know? You don't notice the issues with your relationship as easily because you're blinded by being in love with the person.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so Bojack's kind of avoiding work, going to shoots and stuff, and because he's just, I think
he's like infected by Diane's own depression in the moment.
It's that, and it's also the whole thing with like the new director and the movie's being ruined. He doesn't really like where it's going, and because Kelsey Jennings like left, and you know, we're not making Casablanca. It's no Casablanca. Wait, by that you literally meant we're not making Casablanca. Yeah, that's a different movie. It already exists. Why would we make it?
There was the whole thing about him being very hard on Bojack for calling the movie terrible.
Oh, yeah.
What was the line that he kept repeating? I'm tired of running in circles.
That's right.
He's like, repeat it like 10 times.
Oh, yeah. I like that because it's like he's like, I'm tired of running in circles. I'm tired of running in circles. And then as he goes, it's like it almost sounds like Bojack himself is saying it, not the character he's playing. Like he's saying, I'm tired of running in circles. Like he's tired of his life constantly running in circles. Which is part of why he leaves, you know, to go to New Mexico, I think. It's because he's like, he just has to get away from his life, you know. Yeah, no, that is a pretty poignant moment as well. Yeah. So yeah, this episode is yeah.
And that was all the stuff with Bojack. There was another half to this episode, right?
I mean, there's the whole Todd joining the cult, the improv cult.
Which I guess the extent of like the important bits to the story for that is when Bojack comes to get him.
Which is the last episode, yeah. The last episode. Oh,
right.
The very last episode.
This is all building up. What is this? Like third to last?
Yeah, this is episode 10.
Okay.
Yeah, because next, which we can move on to if you want to now, is the big episode 11, which every season it's like the episode 11 is like one of the hardest hitting ones. Escape from LA is the title of the episode.
And the name of his boat.
Yeah. Also, he's escaping from LA. So he goes to see Charlotte.
And she has a family.
A 17-year-old daughter, and then a son who I don't think they say what age he is.
Puberty.
Yeah, puberty.
Somewhere in there. They made it very clear.
I think it likes the attention. Stop talking about it. Yeah. So yeah, this episode is just I don't even know what to say. Like it's
weird. Cause like at first it's awkward at like the dinner table because Bojack is like realizing just now what he's doing there.
Yeah, he's like
isn't really anything for him.
He has to make up an excuse as to why he's there, because otherwise it'd be weird if he drove all that way just to see her, you know. And then he gets the boat because he went to a boat show. That was his excuse. And he ends up
for some reason actually a boat show there.
somewhere, yeah, or somewhere he could buy a boat at least. I don't know.
Maybe ordered it online.
Who knows? And then ends up staying for 2 months, which is,
Yeah.
kind of weird.
Like, after that time skip, he's just like part of the family and everyone loves him and he's like helping them out.
Yeah, and it seems
like really nice and sweet.
It is actually like he just seems like just like a cool uncle,
Mm-hmm.
He's living in his boat while everybody, net right next to the house. But then comes prom night for Penny. She has him as a date to the prom, which is kind of weird.
Definitely.
I feel like as the mother, I would be like, yeah, maybe you should go with your dad or something. Like, if you really want to date, maybe like, because remember there was that scene where he's like, he was like bringing flowers and like he was gonna ask if she could go to the prom with him. Like he wanted to go with, since she didn't have a date, he wanted to go with his daughter, but Bojack was going with her instead.
Sad and dejected when they mentioned Bojack would go.
Yeah, which it is kind of weird though, because Bojack is like, I think he's around close to 50 years old. 40s to 50s, 40s to 50, somewhere in there, like late 40s something.
I have to look this up now. Age.
Yeah. It depends on the
age at 52.
Is that might be at the end of the show or yes, the beginning?
It's listing a specific episode as his birthday, and that his age is 52 then, so he's 51 in the beginning.
Well, the show takes place over, I don't know how long it takes place over. Like, how many years? I think it might be like each season is another year, maybe.
Oh, no, here it is. So, age 52 as of that episode, and 50 when the show first airs.
Okay, so he's 50 at the beginning of the show, and then it's...
Yes.
Yeah, so he's 52 going to with a 17-year-old girl to prom. Like, that's just kind of weird, but, And then her friend and her friend's date, who's Pete Repeat. The name's Pete. They call me Pete Repeat because I repeat everything I say, and then he never does it. Wait, did I do it that time? Then he does it one time finally, and he's just like, see, I did it. Yeah, so they go to the prom. They're like having fun, whatever, hanging out. Bojack encourages them to drink and, provides them with alcohol, which is,
not great. He even, like judges them on their alcohol taste too.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm a professional alcoholic, let me teach you how it's done. And meanwhile, we're just like, no, don't do that.
This is how,
doing that in the first place.
This is how you do it without getting a hangover. But yeah, so they leave, they go up, and they set off like the balloons with the glow sticks, which is kind of a cool little moment. Except for the one girl is like passed out from drinking too much. Yeah, and then it starts to get...
It starts rolling downhill faster and faster.
Yeah, so he takes her to the hospital, the girl who's like might be getting alcohol poisoning, right? And takes, and literally just leaves her and her date there to take care of her. Like, and he's just like, make sure to tell them that I didn't get you anything. Like, I wasn't about, and like, he's like, I don't know, this seems wrong. Like, this seems bad. And then he's like, no, make sure to tell them. He's like, okay. Like, it's actually kind of terrible.
Yeah, definitely.
So this episode,
she's just sitting there in the wheelchair as he's trying to explain this to the kid.
Yeah. And it's just kind of like,
maybe
it's
that's not the most important thing right now.
Yeah. Anyways, then the next terrible thing happens. So, but they get home. Penny is like, I guess, wants to have sex with Bojack, right? She's like, 17's age of consent, it's legal, whatever. And he's like, no. which is good at first. You're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
good job, Bojack. Say no. And then he goes to talk to Charlotte, and they're having a nice little conversation, remembering the good old days, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then he like tries to kiss her, and she's like, wait, no, this isn't like, you got the wrong idea, like I have a husband and a family here and stuff. And he goes to go to bed. She's like, you should leave tomorrow. He goes to go to bed. Penny's there, and she's just like, please. And there's like, I know what I want. And he's just like, go to bed. He goes in. Oof. And then comes the big moment.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte walks over, hears something from up in the boat, goes up, opens the door, and Penny is on the bed with Bojack, getting ready to help take his clothes off.
Okay, I was never very clear on what exactly happened there, because like, were they actually like getting ready, or was it just like a thing where she walked in the room after him to try to convince him more?
I think so. It's hard to tell, and I think it's like it's always like a conflicting thing, because there's even later points in the show where Bojack is thinking back on that moment, and he's thinking like, and he's saying to somebody, he's like, I like to think that I wouldn't have done it, but like, would I have done it? Like, I don't know. Like, he's like actually like thinking back on it as like a big like, what was I doing kind of moment. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Real crazy stuff.
Yeah, so this is definitely the biggest like, oh shit, like what did you do, Bojack kind of episode so far. Most terrible thing he's done. And this is the episode that includes the one F word ever dropped in this season. Because it's Charlotte telling him, like, she goes, if you ever try to talk to my family again, I will fucking kill you. Like, boom. Right there.
They use their one effectively, let's say that.
Yeah, for sure. Which is, I mean, that's the whole point of it, it is that, like, they only use the word once every season
they don't want it to lose its potency.
To hit. So that way it hits really hard when they use the word, which I think is a really cool, idea. I think it's really cool that they, did that. Yeah. Bojack just goes home on the boat. And
it's a very baller image, but he's not thinking about that. He's just like, trying to forget what just happened, of him just riding, sitting on the boat, like sunbathing with glasses on, while it gets pulled by a tractor trailer, like across the highways.
Well, and it's playing like the Bojack theme music too, like actually in the show, not just in the intro.
Right. I do remember that now.
And it's interesting because it's like, like if you go back to the whole thing that like Secretariat said on the show, where he's like, always, it's like, never look back, always move forward, never look at what's behind you, because that doesn't matter. This is like a perfect example of Bojack doing that. Like, this bad thing happened, he's like, I'm just gonna leave it and try to forget it, try to just never talk about it, never try to push it out of my head. And the problem is he tries to do that, but no matter what, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be something that he's going to remember and regret and think back on. And like, no matter what, no matter how much he tries to keep it in the past, it'll always come back to haunt him, kind of. It's, yeah, it's heavy stuff. But yeah,
And then, oh no, it's next episode. Sorry.
Oh, we can start talking about the next episode if you want.
No, I was just thinking, trying to remember the order of things in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So he gets home, Diane's still there, and then the episode ends.
Right, because it was just like, there's like this like moment, like a few seconds of, oh, you're still here? Yep. And then it just ends abruptly, right?
It's the end of the episode, yep. Then we come to the final episode, which is titled Out to Sea. Obviously referring to the fact that Todd's on a boat and Bojack goes out on a boat to save him. Which I love the whole thing where he's like trying to save him and like the people are just fighting with improv.
And it's like stupid little kid improv.
If you die in improv, you die in real life. Bojack's like, oh, this whole boat's full of idiots.
I just really love how it's like, it's not anything proper. It's just like, oh yeah, I got a flamethrower. Well, we got a SPF 1000, which makes a flame retardant.
Yeah,
just like these like little kid things.
Yep. And Bojack just like, he's like, fine. I have like, I don't know what he said, like something
like
that
a guard killing machine
or
beep,
something.
Boop.
Beep boop. No. He's just like, what? He's just like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
And they get on the boat, and okay, I do really like the little Todd and Bojack bonding moment where he's like talking about
because before mention.
Yeah, because before when Todd left for the cruise, he had mentioned like he's like, oh yeah, I remember the first time I was here and I made you pancakes, and he's like, do you even remember that? And then like Bojack is this time finally he's like, hey, I do remember it. It was actually hash browns, and he's like, and I remember you said this, and like all he says all this, and it was actually kind of like a nice little like.
Yeah, it was.
He does care.
Todd thanked Bojack for letting him stay there, and Bojack said that it was the first good thing that he did that he felt good about.
Well, he said, yeah, he's like,
purpose.
It's the first good thing I did in a while that I did on purpose.
Yeah.
And that I think was a pretty powerful moment too. It's like the first good thing I did on purpose, and like that made him feel good. And it's like,
and then as they're driving away in their boat, that cat man who like controls the cult is like
the butt joke guy.
Improv, yeah. If that was improv, that was very good. Game recognized game.
Oh yeah, the butt joke guy. 100. He finds the book. 101 butt jokes. What? He's a fraud. Normally, I would come in with a perfectly timed butt joke right now, but you have my book.
So he was just reading that book in each of those moments without anybody noticing.
Apparently, somehow.
He just doesn't have them memorized yet.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I'm trying to think whatever else happens. Oh yeah, Diane.
Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane scene in the restaurant.
Which is and they like
that.
Call each other. Yeah, that was a really good moment. And they have that phone call. And also, I think it's funny that at the end, Mr. Peanut Butter's like, oh, also, there's this woman in this restaurant who looks just like you. And it's just like, it's so Mr. Peanut Butter.
Well, like, okay, it could just be, Mr. Peanut Butter being a bit stupid. But it also kind of seems like, he gets it and he's giving her an out.
Yeah, I think that
and I thought that was very nice.
I like to think that that's what it is.
Yeah.
Which is
like earlier in the episode, I think she was talking all about how like she wanted to go home but she didn't. Like the problem with going home was that she would have to explain all the bits of it, have to talk about it, and you know have to live through that again. And Mr. Peanut Butter is just like, gives her an out, gives her a reason to come home that she doesn't need to do any of that.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I like it. It's also sort of shows like Mr. Peanut Butter's character a little bit, because like he's very like not gonna like be that judgmental towards her. He's just kind of gonna be like, I love you unconditionally, kind of like, yeah, you can come home and I'm still gonna love you just the same, like, which is kind of nice.
Golden Retriever.
Yes,
I guess
Golden
they
Retriever.
say that he's a yellow lab. Was that what they called him?
Yeah, that's what he said.
That was in the game show episode, right?
Oh yeah, he's like, cause you're a mutt. It's like, I'm a yellow lab. Get it? Cause you're a mutt. I'm a yellow lab. Yeah. And then I guess we talk about the final moment of the episode, which was, so remember how like the first episode Bojack was trying to go for a run and failing?
Oh, right.
It ends with him going for a run again,
collapsing on the top of the hill.
And then the old guy running comes by and he tells him, which it's actually interesting because this guy is running in the background throughout the entire season. You see him going for a run. Like at the first episode, he like passes Bojack when Bojack's trying to run. And then every other time, like whenever there's like an establishing shot of Bojack's house, you see him on the road running.
Yeah.
So that's like a cool little like continuity thing where it's like, yep, this guy's running every day. And then he tells Bojack, which this is a really big line too, where he's like, it gets easier. He's like, you just got to do it every day.
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part, is doing, as long as you do it every day, it gets easier. And the thing is, like, he's talking about running, obviously, but it
applies to a lot of things in Bojack's
it's not
life.
just about, because Bojack then goes, okay. So it's not just about running to Bojack. It's about his life and how, like, you want to be a better person. Be a better person every day. Just do better things every day. Work on it every day and it will get easier. It's kind of the advice that he gets there. And it's like, so that's kind of like an interesting thing where it's like, it's related to the running, but it's got another layer to it where it's also about, his life. So
yeah,
it's a really good place to end the season on, I think.
And they portray that guy as like the wise old man character, even in that one moment, because he's standing over Bojack looking down at him, and the angles they use shows like the light behind him.
Yeah.
And you see that he's like this like old white aged monkey.
Yeah.
And he looks like, like the Grand Master that you'd go to for advice.
Yeah. What's kind of like, he's a monkey. He might be similar to like, he looks similar to like something like from the Lion King, Rafiki, the type of monkey he is, where it's like, and in that movie, he's the wise old one, wise old character. So it's kind of like, you get kind of like, yeah. But yeah, no, that's a really good moment to end the season on.
Does that guy ever come back? Or is he just there for that one thing?
No, I think it's just that. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a cool dude.
Just the guy who runs every day,
And said one line that, was pretty impactful.
It is. Yeah. But yeah, I don't have a lot more to say if you don't. Unless you do.
Only one thing, just because I want to say it again. Slap my salami, that guy's a commie.
Yep, slap my salami, that guy's a commie. There's a lot of great lines in the show, I think. So I guess overall thoughts on the season?
Better than last one? Still not quite my, my kind of comedy, I guess. But I get a good chuckle here and there, and I like it.
Yeah. I think from how we're talking about it, it sounds like you appreciate the show at least. Like you at
Yeah,
least
I
like.
definitely do.
Yeah.
It's not. I wouldn't watch it on my own.
Right.
But it's definitely like, I understand how this is entertaining. I see a ton of things that they're doing very well, and I enjoy a lot of parts of it.
Yeah.
It's just that most of it is overshadowed by, wow, all of this is really heavy. Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting to talk about, too, I think. Like, even if, like, we're having good discussions on it, I think. So that's also, good. And that's kind of why I chose the show, because I felt like it would create good you could have good discussions on it,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so with that, we should probably close, unless actually, do we want to choose a movie for next week? Because I just realized, like, I don't even know if we have even much of an idea of what movie we want to talk about next week.
I don't know if you do.
No, because I completely wasn't thinking about it at all.
Right, the last few weeks has been weird.
Yeah. I mean, I was on vacation for a few weeks, and it's just been busy. So, I'm just trying to think if I can like pull a random movie out of my brain right now. Just kind of be like, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
We could go with a bad movie if you want. Are you looking up movies?
I literally just looked up random movies, and I found like a movie roulette thing.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, put that on. Put the movie roulette thing on and see what comes up.
Well, here I can okay, so I'll set it to just movies. Do you want a specific genre?
Just do just movies. I want to see what comes up.
Okay. Well, first one is The Brass Legend.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep going until you get something good. I don't know.
1950s. Should I put in IMDb scores a real good score, like a minimum score?
I don't know. Sure, yeah, do like a good one. Yeah, like a good score.
Then let's say greater than 8 on IMDb.
Sure, yeah. Let's try that. Narrow it down a little bit.
Red, White, Black, and Blue Odyssey. Looks like a sports movie.
I don't want to watch a sports movie.
What is this? Looks like some animated thing. Torchlighters, the Quarantine Boom Story.
This is interesting.
Are none of these... Okay, I'm going to raise it up to 8. And David Attenborough, A Life on Our Planet.
Ooh, it's a documentary. It's going to say, is that a nature documentary? Because David Attenborough is like a voice of like a bunch of nature documentaries.
Yeah, it looks like it. It's not giving me enough of a description to me actually tell, but
yeah.
Oh, The Dark Knight.
I mean, you could do that. Actually, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have not.
We could do that.
Yeah, that works. 2 hours and 32 minutes.
Yeah. Technically speaking, the movie is in like it's the second in a trilogy technically, but you could watch it on its own and be fine. So, like, it's the best of the 3.
Oh,
so
okay.
So we could do that if you want.
So apparently there's only 3 movies that are rated above 9 on IMDb and above 90 on Real Good.
Really?
Yeah, because every time I spin this, it's only one of the 3. And the other one is The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that's a good movie too.
Yeah, I've never watched that either.
So it's The Dark Knight, The Shawshank Redemption, and something else?
David Attenborough, A Life on Our Planet.
That's actually funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could do Shawshank Redemption or The Dark Knight. How about that? Pick whichever one you're more interested in. I've seen both.
Oh. Let's say The Dark Knight first.
All right, we'll do
Shawshank in our back pocket for later.
All right, The Dark Knight is our movie for next week. So so next episode we should be talking about The Dark Knight from 2000. Is it 8, 9?
8, I believe it said.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 2008, great movie. I love it a lot. Anyways, this is about time to close here. So thank you for listening to WABAN. There are multiple places you can listen to it, depending on where. I don't know where you're listening to it now, but there's multiple places. So you could listen to it on my YouTube channel, which is Nim TV. That's NIMTV. You can also listen to the WABAN podcast on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you just search WABAN on any of those audio platforms, you should be able to find it. There's a new episode of WABAN released every Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So that's when you can expect it. Don't miss it. Or do, if you really don't like it. But,
wow.
We prefer that you don't miss.
Sure, don't watch our show. That's fine.
Don't. Yeah, just don't. There you go. It's reverse psychology. Don't listen to our podcast. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for listening. I have been your host, Nim.
And I'm the goodest boy.
Goodbye, everyone.